So, the finale of Series 13 of Doctor Who. Was it any good? Wish this was flipping like brandy or something, so it could be like just getting more crazy. Oh god. Was it any good? Well, that's quite the rhetorical question. Obviously it was rubbish, okay? No justification required. Chibnall, you know, it was like episodes 3 and episode 5. How rubbish was it? Well, the thing is, I don't even know if I'd say it was worse than the last episode. I guess so, because it was longer. You know, it was an hour long. Well, 59 minutes. For some reason, there's a rule in the series where it has to go, 50 minutes, then an hour, and then 50 minutes, then an hour. Well, 57 minutes was episode 4, and then 15 and an hour. No reason. This could have definitely been 50, or it could have been 0 because it's so rubbish. Honestly, oh god, I don't even know. I mean, okay, so Series 13 of Doctor Who, Halloween Apocalypse. I like the title. The story itself was a bit bizarre, it didn't make any sense at the time. I can't remember what I was saying, but even if it's naff, rubbish, but you think, the thing is, no, even if they explained afterwards how it all ties together and makes perfect sense, it wouldn't make the first episode that good. It would have to mean it was really good afterwards to tie it all into one big narrative. Because otherwise, even if it's really good, I'm just saying, it didn't make any sense at the time. So unless it's all really interconnected to one story that you have to watch all like in one go almost, it doesn't work weekly then if you do that. One story doesn't work if you're doing it part by part like this. I think the whole system was flawed in that sense. Anyway, first episode was alright, but a bit naff. Second episode, a lot of people liked it. I thought it was almost just as naff. I thought a little better. A lot of people liked it more than me, or the Sontarans. The idea that Sontarans every 17 minutes or whatever it was had to go and restock on all their stuff was pathetically ridiculous. But otherwise, I only liked some of the bits with Daniel sneaking around. Third episode, rubbish. Fourth episode, fairly good, Village of the Angels. It was alright, I thought. Fifth episode, and this one, and in fact 3, 1, 3, 5 and 6 all sort of tie into this mishmash of gibberish. I don't really have much to say about it, frankly. It's just complete rubbish. I mean, if we have a look, I would say I noticed right at the beginning or early on the 13th Doctor's TARDIS, on the sign, it said respond to urgent calls, not respond to all calls. Doesn't it normally say respond to all calls? I mean, they've changed. It used to say officer and cars, and they changed it to officers and cars. But yes, it definitely always used to say all calls. I don't know if that's the 13th Doctor's TARDIS or just this series or what. I assume it's something they changed for the 13th Doctor. But it sort of changes the whole point. It should be respond to anything, not just respond to the most important thing. If it's symbolic of the Doctor, rubbish. I hate the character of Belle. I'm not interested in the character. Like, Belle I actively hate. Whereas Vindo is just stupid. I don't have anything to say about him. He's just rubbish. So, I don't have the energy to explain how bad this is. I feel like I could go on for an hour or two screaming about how terrible it is, shrieking about every inanity and inconsistency. But, I mean, at this point, it's just, it's taken as read. It's just, of course it's rubbish. I don't need to explain every part of it. The whole idea, I mean, Kate Stewart wasn't in it for any reason other than she's a nice character, people seem to like her, let's just throw her in. Her hair wasn't right. Speaking of hair not being right, similarly, the Ood looked as bad as last episode. It's rubbish. His head is too thin, his ears are going off too much, like his tendrils look too neat. It wasn't spotty enough. Compare the Ood in this story to how they looked in, Impossible Planet or Satan Bit, or even in The End of Time, they look a lot more plump, like they're plump, like flipping. They've gone from little what are you? I don't know. They've gone from little berry type things to just sort of squeezed in a bit. It's rubbish. Honestly, I hate looking at the Ood in this story because even in The Doctor's Wife it looked alright, but here it's the costume is all wrong. It just looks a bit thin and naff, honestly. But yes, everything else about it. I mean, it was almost like a best of hits. Best of for Chibnall in terms of being rubbish. The bit with the Sontaran in the shop was absolutely awful. The classic, we've got to have orange text as they go into each area for no real reason. Still, I'll give him credit. It wasn't bamming right on the screen, getting in the way of the shot. It was sort of in the corner. Why is it orange? And why is it they have to do stuff like, oh, let's hide it behind a sign. As the sign pans round, the text gets hidden behind it. Oh, it's so clever. That'll make me like the story. No, it doesn't. It's rubbish. I think I like the villain designs in the whole thing, whatever they're called, Swarm and Azure, but they're so wasted and awful. I'll tell you what I absolutely hate about this flipping episode in particular. Every flipping time, and in fact in this story, I mean, I know it's a sort of tradition for a villain. He's about to kill someone and he's like, I must have the final word. I must have like a little speech just before I kill you. I must say, ah, you never could stop me, could you? You know, they've got to have a final thing to say. I understand, it's always fun when you have that. But for the love of God, you've got flipping these villains who have the Doctor in their clutches, and then they say all this stupidity like, oh, well, we can destroy the whole universe. We can kill you as slowly as we like. And it's like, oh, Tribunal padding the story out as long as he can, you know. And then they flipping erase her, burst her apart into all this red stuff, join her back together again, and flipping Humpty Dumpty, she's fine. You know, why? She should be, haven't you read The Crimson Hand? The Doctor gets erased. It turns out that was just a teleporter, but still, the whole point, when you get burst apart like that, all these atoms, you shouldn't then just be able to put back together perfectly. I guess that's the power of the villains, but it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It destroys the threat. I mean, I know she's probably not really going to lose ultimately, but for God's sake, you can't have someone burst into particles, then put back together and be perfectly fine. What's the point of it? You might as well just say, oh, well, we can do that with anyone. Anyone who's dead at all, just vroom. If you can put the particles back together, they should be fine. It doesn't make any sense. And it just destroys the tension. It abolishes the whole meeting, because now we just think, why don't they just kill the Doctor? No. We've got to have a dull scene of interrogation where she's sort of pretending to understand and work out what's going on with another person. The stupid man with sort of silvery hair who just looks like an idiot. I'm sorry. I see him, my thought automatically goes, that's an idiot. And so he's just pathetic. I hate Belle, did I mention? Terrible. I hate her. She just looks constantly so smug. Why didn't the Cybermen shoot her when they had the chance? Everything about the story is abysmal. Anyway, and so... Oh, God. I mean, I've got it here just... and I've just watched it, obviously, right? Like always, just watched it. Oh, I like the bit, what's her name, Vinda, and that armless woman, you know, her arm. There was a bit at the end where, you know, her arm normally looks a bit sort of like this, sort of smooth. It suddenly looked all crumpled, like this, like fingers or something. And I actually went back and watched it again because I thought it looked all wrong. For one shot, suddenly it looked totally different. It was like CGI'd on, you know, her arm. It had like an extension. It was like normally here, and then suddenly it was that long. Anyway. There's a bit where they were going in the forest, Vinda and this woman, I don't know her name, anyway. And it was all bluish and nice. I thought, nice looking place. Why can't we get some nice establishing shots and like having them walk around? Instead, the camera has to constantly focus on character after character, zoom in so they're massive. God, I'm just saying, it's like, how bad can it be? Every time there's a bit of dialogue, every time there's some conversation, I get the point. They must have been trained. When there's a conversation happening in the character thing in some television, put the camera behind the person's shoulder so we can see the other person. Then swivel it around and show the other person from their perspective. And it keeps leaping from place to place. Why can't it have some bits from further out so I can see what's going on? Why does it have to zoom in on it so much? Why do we have to keep having the 13th Doctor having these bits where she's got like headaches and she's like, ugh. They've done that in like every series. Honestly, it's a flipping time loop. I tell you, every series. It's Tribunal just repeating himself more and more, increasing the repetition of his repetition. I mean, it's like an acceleration of terribleness. It's like a final episode in Connections, if you remember that series, 1977. Anyway, and flipping by the end, I like the very, very last bit. That's what I liked, when she had the watch, and she was, I don't know how she got it. How did she get it? But she's got the watch, and she drops it. I mean, it's very odd because suddenly it turns out in the console, it's like someone's put a hole in her console. I thought she was against that, wasn't she? Or she was in flipping and Rebus Operation Part 1. Anyway, but lifts this thing up, drops the watch in. I thought the shot of the watch being dropped was rubbish. It just goes like just almost like she flipping flung it in. It should have had this slow motion like fall. Oh, but no, it just goes like in it goes. After all the dramatic tension building up to her dropping it, it's just like, eh. But yes, rubbish. But I like the idea that she dropped it in the TARDIS, but then, totally undermining the moment, she then said something like, she was like, oh, make sure I will never find it. And then she said something like, oh, unless I really want to, unless I really need it. It's just stupid. What was the point of any of it? The whole reason of having the characters say, oh, the timeless child, oh, your secrets, just for the sake of flipping making the viewer want to watch it. Never explained. It doesn't make any sense. Irrelevant to the rest of the story, in fact. The only reason it was done was so you think, oh, they go on about the timeless children, I better watch that story. And so it's rubbish. I don't care. I wouldn't want to watch a story based on that flipping being about the story. If they say, oh, it's about the timeless child, I would just think, God, no, I'm not interested. And then after all the rubbish we've gone through, right at the end, they drop all the characters off in like 5 minutes. It's not flipping RTD, 10 minutes of farewells. After all that, they just flipping drop them all wherever they can. Leave Carvinister, Bell and Vinder all on the ship right at the end. I mean, what was the point? Why have any of this? They don't die or anything. Who actually died in the story? The only characters who died are the ones who were basically irrelevant. I mean, the main characters, Vinder and the Carbonister and Bell, they're all like main characters. They're basically plot devices. I mean, the villains are basically plot devices. I mean, technically any character sort of is, but they just sort of stand around making speeches and not killing the Doctor. I mean, the villains do, or any of them, whatever. All of them are just there for the sake of it. The bit right at the end when they had the man with the silvery hair, the man in the long black coat, when they left him, for some reason he always does this thing where he makes people's skin bulge out when they die. Oh, there was a bit he was interrogating a man who was saying, where is Kate Stewart? And just before the man died, he was like, oh, she went here. And it's like, why did he say that? He died the next second. He was already in the process of dying. If you're going to interrogate someone, don't actually... It's like, instead of holding them at gunpoint and saying, where did this woman go? It's like you shoot them and then you say where the woman go. He's done it wrong. You don't do that. You ask them, threatening them and hurting them in ways they cannot comprehend, or tickling them. You don't hurt them to death and then ask them, because you're too late. But he was in the process of killing him. And you might say, well, maybe the guy thought he would stop. Maybe he had no idea what's going on and he was just in pain. Well, it's just stupid. Think of the other guy's perspective. He's not going to be thinking about that. The person inflicting the pain isn't thinking, he'll know he's not going to die if he answers the question, or he'll think that. Why would he do it? Why wouldn't he just ask him or just kill him? It didn't serve any purpose anyway, of course. So that's why it's stupid, obviously. And then at the end, the Vinder and someone, I can't remember, were holding guns to him, and he didn't use his power. I guess the whole point was he lost it or something when the Flux was gone, I don't know. And then he got led into a room. If the Flux stuff was gone, how were the doors still operational? Anyway, and so we got led into this alternative reality place that was just like an asteroid. And then the door closed, and we get a very quick bit of him like, oh, and that's it. Like, after all that, I would have liked a final bit of the camera zooming out, doing that thing that I love to do where it zooms out and it goes, no! And it's stuck in this empty realm. Like at the end of the comic, The Time Witch, where she gets stuck in the thing she was trapped in at the beginning. That's a brilliant comic strip. With the Fourth Doctor. That's a great one. But I love that. I've always loved that one. I don't know. I always assume people don't think it's good, unlike the Star Destroyer, which is obviously a classic, or the Iron Legion, Dogs of Doom and all that. I always loved the Time Witch. I think that's what it was called, where they have she can imagine anything. It's brilliant, she's the person who gets stuck in this realm, everything she thinks of appears, and she's like, maybe even and then it cuts, new hairdo, and it's the Doctor's companion, and then and then they land and they have this fun battle where they're making up all this stuff. It's brilliant. Anyway, way better than this. Honestly, I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I hate the character of Belle. Honestly, I mean, she's stupid, she's annoying, even the way she looks. I mean, I don't mean to insult the actor, but I mean, aren't you supposed to say actor nowadays for any gender? I don't care. Anyway, but whatever, the point is, honestly though, she does look a little bit stupid. It's a fact. I can't help it, I'm sorry. I see her the same way I see the villain with the whitey hair, and I immediately think, idiot. Anyway, well, a little bit, but I mean, it doesn't, no, but I mean, that's first impressions, right? Quite powerful, but the writing can save them and make you like the character. Unfortunately, it does the opposite. I hate the character the more I listen to him. So, the stupidity of the person in the mine from episode 1, never explained. What was that about? No reason. What's the whole point of it that it wasn't explained? It's not a very good thing for a story doing that. Whole point of a bit in a story is we're not going to explain something for the mystery of it. Rubbish. I could go on looking at all these bits. There was a bit where they started to go on towards the end about, oh, the 13th Doctor is going to regenerate or die or something. And you just think, oh, for God's sake, it's flipping, might as well say something stupid like, he will knock 6 times or something, because they've got to put some final phrase in, haven't they? You know, they always have to do something like that, for God's sake, like something preluding to the end. Why? It's just pathetic. Honestly, the whole thing was awful. The plan at the end, the whole thing of having 2 doctors at once, 3 doctors at once, and then not just that, but of course, with the moment you've got a story where the characters can jump around. Oh God, this thing keeps making the words appear. They can jump around anywhere in time because all of time is messed up. So they keep appearing in different realities. There's no tension, there's no point to any of it anymore because anything can happen. The point at which you're in different realities at once and you're sort of dead but not really dead in different ones and you can teleport out of them and there's copies of you everywhere. It doesn't make any sense. The whole thing loses any sense of tension or sense. And so it's pointless. And yes, I mean, I don't even have anything else to say. I guess I could just conclude for this series because it's just rubbish. But the thing is, I knew it was rubbish. Oh, and, or as the 12th Doctor says, just before he regenerates, oh, and I always like that bit. You know, when he turns around. I mean, the Twice Upon a Time isn't very good, especially with Bradley as the first Doctor. I mean, he's not too. He was good as Hartnell, you know, of An Adventurous Space and Time, but as the first Doctor, he's well, if you're going to do an impression of the first Doctor, the thing to do is just constantly hold your lapels and go, all the time. That's all you need to do for the first Doctor. Just go, Chesterton, Chesterman, you know. But no, he won't. He doesn't go, and so he's rubbish. The first Doctor said, like 800 plus times, didn't he? I'm sure someone's counted. Why bother? Honestly, more times than there are parts, probably, in Doctor Who, or just about as many. I mean, supposedly this is the 297th story, but that's not counting Sharda. So anyway, why would you not count Sharda? Anyway, so, honestly, I mean, if Sharda wasn't missing, I mean, not missing, you know, if it had been made, no one would go on about it nearly as much. I wish it had been made, it's a pity, but, well, actually, in a way, I'm glad it wasn't, so people have made, I mean, you know, the book and all the different animated versions, terrible and alright, you know. In fact, there's a new one recently, not new, but the when the animation for 2017 came out, it was all in one big episode. But on the collection, apparently, the Series 17, Season 17 collection they're going to release, they've divided it up into 6 parts like it should have been initially. Actually, I watched it in 5 parts when I watched the animation because I tried to divide it up into 6, but when I got to part 5 at the end, I just thought, let's just get to the end because it's so dull at that, because it's all animated, because the first part was mostly filmed. It was all sort of filmed. As it goes on, and less of it is filmed, because they didn't film any of the bits in the ship at the end. So, Sharda's pretty good. Anyway, I'm not sure why I'm mentioning that. The point is, how did I start on about that? So anyway, oh, because I said it was 297th, right? Yes, well, it's rubbish. I mean, we all know it's rubbish, but I mean, would I want to rewatch it? Not really. Bits of it. I mean, that's the problem. You made this all one story. So now I can't really recommend it officially. I could say to someone, oh, I think Village of the Angels is definitely, you know, the best one. The thing is, though, you don't even need to watch the rest of the stories to enjoy that. The rest of the series, or stories. Just watch that and it'll be fine. And just ignore the rest. The ones least to do with the Flux are the ones that are the best. That's not a very original observation. As Tegan says in the Visitation. Is it? She says that isn't a very original observation or something. Anyway, but yes, it's just rubbish. I mean, you know, God, I honestly have nothing really to say about it. Oh, the thing I was saying about Bradley, right? The point is that he wasn't very good as the first Doctor, and all that. But Twice Upon a Time, naff as it was, I remember thinking actually at the time, it's a pity Chibnall didn't write one for the Christmas special. I guess he didn't want to. And if he wasn't going to, if Moffat hadn't, there wouldn't have been one that year. And I guess it's better to have one rather than have Capaldi regenerate at the end of Doctor Falls and then just have no episode. I suppose it was better, but if you edited together Doctor Falls and Twice Upon a Time, I always think if they delayed that and then released it as one massive story, it would have been so much better. It would have been like one of the best stories ever. I mean, I think Doctor Falls, One Upon a Time Doctor Falls, is just one of the greatest stories ever. But Twice Upon a Time, naff. You could edit the regeneration into the end of Doctor Falls though, and it would be brilliant. It would be finished. You don't need that stuff. It's completely stupid. There's no villain. Yeah, you can say it's all nice and thematic, having there be no villain, and it's all about the afterlife rubbish, sort of like Dark Water again. There's no plot. It's just characters wandering around saying rubbish. A few random little references, nice music, because it's all combinations of stuff that's been used. But it's just blaring. It could have gone on for another 3 hours if they'd wanted, or it could have been chopped in half. I believe it was even like for half an hour longer, apparently, before they started really cutting it down loads. Jesus Christ, it's awful. It's not anywhere near as bad as this though, because at least it had some fun bits. At least Capaldi was in it. At least it had Moffat in the credits. I mean, that was cheerful. At least Murray Gold was doing the music. I don't care who does the music if the music's good. Speaking of the music, I guess I should mention it's rubbish. I mean, I have nothing to say about it because it's the usual Sega and Akinola. To be honest, it's not like ear-grating rubbish. It's not terrible. But it's very predictable, and I don't mean in a leitmotif, thematic, interesting way. I'll be honest, Marigold's best music was series 1 to 5. I think as he went on, especially into series 8 and 9, he wasn't as good. I mean, Heaven Sent notwithstanding. Generally at least. Even that episode, not absolutely the best. I think it doesn't have much time to compose the music, but they used a lot more variations on particular sequences and parts. I mean, even the I had it go that was in one of the games, but that was used in several. It was used in especially in The Impossible Planet, but the bass line for it is actually in series 1. But series 1 is of course entirely synthesized in the episodes themselves, the music to which was never released. It's all unreleased music in series 1. I mean, they released reorchestrated, redone versions, but never the official stuff, like any of series 1 ever. Anyway, it's a pity. Why didn't they just release the flipping music from Wars of Mars? That's the one everyone wants the most, right? I mean, when the Doctor's fighting the Flood, the music from when all the strange creatures plays up to the explosion, and in fact a few seconds afterwards, so it goes ding, 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 although that bit was released. Whoa, until they release like a full soundtrack of every single musical cue used in series 1 to 10, I'm not going to be ever truly pleased. No episode rip is ever as good as the actual thing, I've heard many unreleased music bits, and they're never, you always hear little echoey voices. Well, what can you do? Oh, maybe that's just me. Echoey voices. But I mean, to try and rip the music off, you get, you can't. I don't know. I've never tried, but I guess it's not like on the discs or whatever. The music is on one track and the dialogue is on another track. Presumably, when they edit it, that's what happens. But you can't just take it off that easily. If you could, there wouldn't be a problem, and it would be a lot easier to steal all the music. But it's not really that hard. You can find it all somewhere on the internet, can't you? If you look at all, you don't have to look hard at all. Just type in Doctor Who Series 7 soundtrack. You'll find anything for free. Maybe it's like. Oh, no, I was going to say maybe it's like tuned down by a semitone. No, it isn't. Unlike some classic music will be. But that's because, and the music isn't really copyright, but the version is, like the conducting version is. Anyway, so, where was I? But yes, I think, yes, the point is that everyone knows he used leitmotifs, Mr. Gold. But Sega Akinola, I mean, ambient music can work. It's not the sort of thing you'll get the proms and be all amazing, but it could be good. But it's very predictable, even more so hilariously than Gold's flipping leitmotifs. I mean, Gold wasn't perfect in any way, pretty awful at certain points, in fact. I always like the music in closing time, right when the Doctor's saying, I'm going, and he's leaning on the TARDIS, and he goes, and the music goes, da, 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 and it goes, da, 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 da. Okay, I probably shouldn't sing it, but the point is, it's nice little cheerful music when it suddenly cuts to them in the shop. I've always thought that was a brilliant little bit. One of the few good melodies. Wow, I led the music in Bells of St. John a lot, but yes, I think as he went on, especially in series 8 and 9 and 10, there's just fewer melodies that you can sort of sing along with. It's a lot more muted. I'm not sure that's the right word. Less variety in certain bits of the sonority, sort of less emphatic, and it doesn't. I mean, the key problem, the first real big problem Gold had with all of it, although you can't entirely blame him for this, is the constant overuse of flipping "I am the Doctor" in every episode. But that's because it was placeholder music, and then they just used it anyway or something. You know, he composed a lot of stuff for Day of the Doctor that wasn't used. Anyway, a stadium finds the soundtrack is just very odd. Whole bits of scenes he would have composed music for, and they weren't used. Anyway, so yes, but Akinola, every time it's tribunal spectacular because it's like dull rubbish, orange text somewhere explaining the place. There's a bit where it's a deep space and then it cuts somewhere else and says deep space. And it's like, if you're going to say deep space like that twice, is it the same bit of deep space? Is it a different bit of deep space? That's the problem with calling an area something. Because then if you cut to somewhere else and it's also called deep space, I don't know how close it is or far away. It might be right next to it because it's got the same name. It's rubbish. Anyway, rubbish. I mean, bits of it are nice, but actually, genuinely, I think this is naff. I mean, is testing my ability to say nothing's ever going to be as bad as stuff like Galaxy 4 or something, missing black and white, dull, animated, probably a little better. I haven't watched the animation. Although the Chumblies are the wrong colour. They're supposed to be coral pink or whatever it was. I don't know. Anyway, so yes, awful. And basically that sums up my general view on this series. It's a pity. I mean, it has some good ideas, series 13, but yes, the other thing Akinola does is anytime there's a character is seen, another tribunal staple, stop the plot for 5 minutes, we've got to have people standing around talking for no real reason. Put some soft ambient little piano music on to make it seem emotional. Like, there's no theme, it doesn't tie to any character. It's just like, oh, an emotionally slow scene. Ding, ding, ding. It's just so flippant. I mean, you get that in stuff like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but at least in that, it was probably more relevant, and also it didn't generally totally interrupt the flow quite so much, or it sort of slid into that scene a bit better. Well, I've only watched a lot of those episodes once. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Unlike Flint Doctor Who, I've watched it so much. It's a bit absurd. Oh, God. I mean, I will say. And also, right at the end, the trailer for the next episode, honestly, it's like chronic hysteresis, like they say in... I don't know, series 17? Series 18? What story is that? Where they say chronic hysteresis. Is that what they say? Hysteresis. I was going to say series 17. It's definitely series 17 or 18, isn't it? What is it? Like the Pirate Planet? No, I don't know. That's not series... Yes, it is. That's series 16. I'm just saying it because it's Douglas Adams. I don't know then. Maybe it's that one. I could look it up, but I'm not doing that right now. The point is that my point is, it's just a flipping time loop because 3 series in a row, sort of a fairly incomprehensible finale that tries to tie things together and only proceeds to make no sense and make the whole series even worse overall, followed by a trailer for a New Year's Day episode with the Daleks and the same flipping characters again. The only thing is, I didn't see a title at the end of the trailer, but I bet you it's going to be called something beginning with R, Shun of the Daleks. Wow. Resolution should have been called Resolution of the Daleks not because there was only one Dalek in it, but just because now there will never be a story called Resolution of the Daleks because I've used that title. Revolution of the Daleks. It'll be called, let's see, Revelation, Resurrection, Remembrance, Revolution, Resolution, Reckon. What about rebirth? That's a bit of a different word. What about reconnaissance of the Daleks? There's probably a flipping Big Finish story or that. Aren't there already Daleks called reconnaissance Dalek? Well, haven't they just done that? I don't know. Anyway, I'm looking forward to RTD coming back there. God. In conclusion, series 13 of Doctor Who. Maybe I should do a different video for that. I'm not going to. I'm not going to because it's so pointless. It's nothing to say. In fact, I'm going to stop talking now because I've been doing it for half an hour and I've been said very little as always. In conclusion, I think Super Mario RPG is an excellent game. I think Series 13 of Doctor Who is basically naff. The more it has to do with written by Chibnall and the more with the Flux, the worse it is. I would rather watch Castle in the Sky, which I watched half of yesterday. I'd rather. I only seen the first half, but I bet the second half is better than this. I would rather have a buffalo take a dive. No, I would rather. No, there's nothing else to say actually. In fact, it's so bad. It's the sort of thing where I would say I would rather, and then I can't finish the simile because, you know, it's so, it's so dull. It's so pointless. It's so insipidly terrible that there's no point even reaching a strong conclusion about it. You know, I can't even. It's like so. It's not. It's like coming third out of five in a mediocre competition. Mediocrity competition. It's just rubbish. Yes, I don't think it was the worst story ever, but I do wonder what they could broadcast that I could say this is the worst story ever. Could they even make a story unless they were trying to make the worst story ever? Could they even release a story now that I would say is the worst story ever? Because if it's not this, then what? I don't think this is the worst story ever because the whole thing's saved because it's 6 episodes, so I have to include Village of the Angels, and I like Village of the Angels. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was sort of 9 out of 10 ish. It was much better. Oh God, that's the thing. That's the funny thing is, if this was 6 episodes and all separate, it would be like, oh, you know, it was the shortest rubbish Doctor Who series ever, but the Revive series, sort of. But because it's all one story. That's the way they've got away with it being so short, is they can say, but it's actually the biggest story ever. You know, every series they like to say it's the biggest thing ever, and they can sort of say it now because it's one story over 6 episodes. In conclusion,